Hello, and a big warm welcome to you. Yippee! Woohoo! I'm so glad that you're here. I love this topic. I'm going to take a little time just to wait for some of you to show up live. If you're watching the recording, thank you for being here. I'm particularly passionate about this because I have really had personal experience with this, and I'm going to be talking about it later on in the live. But yeah, my son went from hello, welcome, went from being very, very calm, loving, connected, and not one single sign of any of these things, which I'm going to label aggression, not in any judgmental way, but I'm going to label that. And then, hi, Phoenix, welcome. Then once my ex-husband and I separated, he started hitting and head-butting. And it was very painful and very hard for quite a while. And then through doing the things that I'm going to be talking about you today, I helped him come out the other side and become again the boy that he was, loving, compassionate, connected, and he doesn't do any of those things anymore. So I really want to let you know, if you're in the middle of this kind of experience, if your child is hitting or biting or throwing or kicking or pushing or taking, I'm sending so much love and compassion, and I really understand how you're feeling. I really want to look you in the eye, and it's really hard to do because I'm looking at the comments. Hi, Phoenix. So yeah, to really let you know, if you are experiencing this, my heart goes out to you and have lots and lots of compassion for you. And we're going to be really talking about ways to help you so that you can respond in these effective and empathic ways. So I'd love to hear, first of all, Phoenix, you're the only one here at the moment. Hopefully there's going to be some more joining. And feel free to not say anything if you don't want to. But what I'd love to hear is, and you might want to, if you're watching later on, you're watching the recording, please come and share, because I'll come back and check this. So why is it that you've joined in? Why are you watching? What is it that your child is doing that has brought you to watch this? So are they hitting? Are they biting? Are they throwing things? What is it that they're doing? And while I wait to see if you want to write anything, Phoenix, please feel free not to if you don't want to. Is that what I'm going to do first of all is really to start with ourselves, because I think the most helpful place to start with so that we can respond effectively and empathically is really to start with our own position first. So I'm going to be reading my notes. I've got my notes here because it's really hard, isn't it, to respond. I'm sure you found this. It's hard to respond empathically and effectively if we've got thoughts and feelings going on in us that are getting in the way of that. So I really want to address that first as almost like the most important thing. Welcome. So the first thing I'm going to do is start off with the 3 reasons why it can be really hard for us to respond empathically and effectively to our children when they're doing these kinds of things. And then after that, I'm going to offer you some ways that you can, things that you can do to respond both preventatively and in the moment when your child is doing those kinds of things. So welcome to those of you who've joined. So first of all, I'd love to hear if you're willing to share what's your child doing, and please feel free not to say anything if you don't want to, but are they hitting, are they biting, are they throwing things, are they pushing, are they taking, what is it that they're doing? I'm gonna keep sipping water. I don't know where you are in the world. Welcome. Oh no, I hope I'm not going to start coughing. It's a super duper hot day here. We've suddenly gone into full on summer and it's like 30 degrees. And so I'm probably going to need to keep drinking lots of water. So, yeah, perhaps your child is suddenly, maybe they're snuggling out to you and they're suddenly biting you, or maybe they're hitting their sister or pinching or taking all your books off the bookshelf and throwing them, or they're taking toys from other children. Phoenix, I'm in Pottsville, yay, just up the road, not very far at all. I don't know if you know, I'm in Mullumbimby, so we're pretty close. So you say, hi there, my 2.5-year-old is running off on me. I'm having a lot of stress with her doing this. She'll sometimes run and throw things in her hand if she has something I don't want her to have, i.e. something dangerous like a knife, but mainly it's her running off all the time. Thanks for sharing, Phoenix, and lots of love to you. And I really hear how stressful this is. And I want to say I will be talking about that, and we can bring back the thing about her throwing things in her hand, so we can definitely talk about that. But to let you know, what I'm going to be talking about, a lot of it is really relevant to anything that we're finding challenging with our children, because I'm really going to be talking about the source of those kinds of behaviours. So yeah, I'm sending you lots of love. And welcome to the others who've joined. I don't know if you want to share. Do you want to share what's going on for you and your child or children? I'd love to hear. So I know there's often a little delay between you hearing me and then you writing and me seeing your writing. So I'll keep going, but please keep sharing. I will keep coming back and reading your comments. So the first thing I'm going to do is invite you to listen to what's going on for you. So when your child's doing those things, so for you, Phoenix, when they're doing that, oh, Ra, hi, welcome, welcome. So glad that you're here. So if you want to share why you come, I'd love to hear, Ra. Yes, lovely to see you. So I think the first thing that I'd love to do is to invite you to connect in with what kinds of things are going through your mind. So for you, Phoenix, when she's running off, or when she's got something dangerous in her hand and you're really wanting her to be safe, and then she runs off, what kinds of things are you telling yourself? What kinds of things are you thinking? So I think the kinds of common things, so oh, Jess, welcome, welcome. So glad you're here. Welcome to everyone. So please let me know. I find this, so I've in workshops, in real life, IRL, I've often asked this question for various things to do with parenting and when our children are doing things we don't enjoy. And I often find that this can be one of the most helpful places to actually share and hear from other parents the kinds of things that might go through your head when they're doing this kind of stuff that we don't want them to do. And often parents say things like, and I'm going to share, but please come and share yours if you want to. So they might say things like they're doing it deliberately, they're wanting to be annoying, why won't they listen to me? Why are they so aggressive? What have I done wrong? I've told them 1,000 times, why do they keep doing this? So we'll generally, what we can often do, I don't know about you, but this is often in our culture what happens. We'll either go into judgment of them or judgment of ourselves. So I don't know if you've ever, any of those sound familiar, whether you have any you'd like to share. Esther, hi Marion, others. Hi Esther, welcome, welcome. So I don't know if you'd like to share why you're here, and if you want to share any of the things that go through your mind. So many times I've been at workshops and writing all these, and it can be really fun to hear other parents go. To let you know, if you have any of these kinds of thoughts, you're so not alone. Pretty much every parent I've ever spoken to has at times had these kinds of thoughts like, oh, or no, not again, or, oh, I can't stand this. Or so by the way, if you've got children around, I'm generally going to be saying really compassionate things, but at the beginning I'm going to be sharing these pieces, because I really think it's so important to have compassion for ourselves as parents, to know that it's really very, very common to have these kinds of ways of thinking, because that's often the way we got brought up. So that, our culture has these kinds of ways of thinking. So the next question I'd love to ask, anyone like to share? Is everyone feeling in quiet mode? Or maybe you want to just connect in and think for yourself. If you don't want to share, I totally understand, especially if you don't know me and you don't know who's going to be showing up. You may really not want to be sharing that your innermost and most challenging thoughts with people you don't know. So I really understand. So Phoenix, you say, yes, it's definitely judgment for both of us. Frustration, seeing other children who aren't doing this behavior and wondering why my child keeps doing this, even though I've tried everything. Oh, I so hear you. Yeah. So you kind of maybe even a little bit of comparison, like, well, why are they doing it? Why, why is she doing it? And those kids aren't doing it. I've done all this stuff, and imagine thinking about all the ways that you've listened to her and you've met her needs, and why is she doing this? Really hear you, Phoenix. Thank you for sharing. Lots of love to you. So Ra, you said, we had a talk years ago about what my son wants to tell me when I'm in stress, and I want to just regularly practice and listen to myself more so I can be in the right state of mind to respond lovingly when I feel helpless, tired, or in pain. The more I practice this, the easier it becomes. I love that, Ra. I love it so much. Thank you for sharing. And this is what the first half of what I'm going to be talking about. It's really helping ourselves so that more often of the time, as much as we possibly can, we're going to be in the kind of thinky, I call it thinky, the thinky, emotional, physiological state, so that it's so much easier to then respond in these empathic and effective ways that I'm going to talk to you about. So I love that. Thank you, Ra. So yeah, it's really understanding when we have these ways of thinking, when we're thinking this stuff, that what generally is going to happen is we're going to feel things like frustrated. I really hear you, Phoenix. Other parents have often said things like, and I've certainly experienced many times myself, things like powerless, helpless, overwhelmed, be rage, why are you doing this again? Or it can be, real going to helplessness, there's nothing I can do, I've done everything, why are they still doing this? We can have really, really big feelings in response to this. And I really, again, want to send you lots of compassion if you've had that. If you felt those kinds of things, I really want to let you know, I hear you, I understand, I've been there, I know what it's like. And then the next piece is to, when you're thinking those things and when you're feeling those feelings, what types of actions do you then possibly do? So I see a comment where I'm just going to share this bit first. So when you're feeling rage or frustration or powerlessness or helplessness, are you then more likely to do things like, get a little bit threatening or a little bit blamey or a little bit judgy with them, or maybe use power over them, or maybe get a little bit threatening, if you don't stop, then we're not going to do this, or going into your own ways of trying to actually stop this behavior. It's really, really common, by the way. I really, again, send you lots of love and compassion. So Rai, say, I have a challenging time ahead because I started writing my thesis. Oh, I started writing it. I'm celebrating you. My child feels I'm stressed, so I want to prepare myself way ahead for spring next year when it will be hard for us, maybe. Yes, I so hear you. I really love that. It's really so much about our emotional state, isn't it? That they, as you've experienced, they live in this emotional field and they really pick up on how we're feeling. So that's why the more we can do our own inner work to find this more of so we can be kind of like an anchor for them when they're in these painful places. It's so helpful. So as I was saying at the beginning, I'm going to share 3 reasons why it can be hard for us to respond empathically and effectively. And then after that, that's our piece. Then after that, I'm going to share some of the strategies that we can use to respond both in the moment and preventatively. So that was the first reason, is really what we're telling ourselves and what we're thinking about why they're doing it. And I'm going to be giving you some different ways of thinking about why. So that can be a really helpful piece, is replacing those kinds of thoughts with consciously choosing to think about the reasons that I'm going to be offering, if they resonate with you. And knowing these and repeating these and kind of having these tattooed on our minds can help us be much more likely in the moment to respond empathically, compassionately, effectively. So that's what I'm going to be doing a little bit later on. But for the moment, that's one of the first reason why we can act in those ways. So, but that's only one of the 3 the causes of our feelings and why we can feel so agitated and frustrated and powerless and all those things when they're doing this hitting or biting or throwing or all that stuff. So what is another cause of those? So it's our unmet needs. So if we are chronically having unmet needs in our lives as parents, particularly for things like connection, support, self-expression, creativity, connection with ourselves, then it can make it so much harder when our child's doing these things. It can be so much harder to be empathic with them because we've got painful feelings because of our unmet needs. So basically, when we have unmet needs, that leads to painful feelings of, again, helplessness, frustration, tiredness, flatness, sadness, all these kinds of things. So doing whatever we can do to meet our needs and to have our needs cup a little bit fuller up is going to mean in the moment, if they're doing that thing, we're going to be more resourced to respond in the ways that we want to. So what I tend to think of as parents is that we need to be kind of quite creative about this. It's not like how it was before you're a parent, where you maybe had these long swathes of time possibly to do things to meet your needs. Is doing things like mini-me moments, that I call them. So that might be things like, going for a walk with your child, putting your favorite music on in the kitchen and dancing around, putting on your favorite essential oil and really letting yourself smell that as you go about your day. I remember one mum showed me this one. I always thought was an amazing one. She had an exercise bike, and she had a young child and a baby, and she would ask them to kind of be her coaches, so the child could do that, and the baby would sit in a kind of seat thing opposite her, and she'd be doing the cycling, and the child would be going, "Come on, mama, more." And so there was a way of being connected with them and getting her need for exercise met. So often we need to think of these really creative ways. How are we going to do these kinds of things? It can be, I put lots of things down on my list. It can be even things like when you're having your smoothie or your coffee or your hot chocolate, just really letting yourself experience that, even for 2 or 3 seconds, if that feels hard to do, and actually letting yourself receive that nourishment. So bringing moments of presence into our lives, these mini-me moments, and oh yay! I know it sounds like it's a little thing, but cumulatively over time, if we really have chronic unmet needs, we are going to be more and more in these painful feelings, and it's going to be way harder for us to respond in the ways both preventatively in the moment that help our kids. So whatever you can do to keep putting in these mini-me moments, little things, little and often is generally much more effective than waiting for once a week to go to a yoga class. Little and often throughout your day, creative sprinkles throughout your day. So helpful. It's really going to help you. It's really going to help your child or children. Phoenix says, so do resort to power over, and I'm feeling uncomfortable about it. And yes, hearing you on the unmet needs front, solo parenting. So I really hear you, and it's really hard. Phoenix, I really want to remind you, we're not designed to be parenting. It's not designed to be one child and one parent and one or more children for extended periods of time. We're designed to live in tribes. That's kind of how we're designed to be. So it can be really hard, and that's why I really invite you to get creative and to really remind yourself of the importance of these little and often things, and often with your child, so you're not waiting to be without them. So you're putting in these things throughout your day, sprinkling the magic in. Great ideas, thanks. Yay. And you may have your own ideas, and maybe put a post-it or put a reminder on your phone or something so that you remember, because it's so easy to drop those things, and all the things that need to be done, as we know, can really come into the forefront. Elizabeth, welcome. So glad you're here. So those are 2 of the reasons why it can be really hard for us to respond empathically and effectively. One, it's what we're telling ourselves. The second is our own unmet needs. And the third reason is, and I think this is particularly the case with this kind of the hitting, the biting, the throwing things, those kinds of things, is it reminds us of painful things in our own childhood experiences. So let me push my notes up, so I want to make sure I say all the things I really want to say. So the way our psyches are designed to work is that when something in the present reminds us of something painful in the past that didn't ever get to be expressed and heard with loving compassion, then those feelings come up in the present, and it often feels like those feelings are about the present moment, but actually it's the way our psyche is designed to work. It's designed for those feelings to come out now and to be heard and be healed. So what can often happen is, particularly if you had siblings who maybe overpowered you or hurt you physically or tickled you or hit you or in some way hurt you, or at school you had experiences like that, or with parents or teachers you had repeated experiences of being hurt, then this can often come up when our child, you know, if your child's hitting another child or hitting their sibling, it can be even more of a, what I call a sweet spot. As you know, the sweet spot is that, you know, that it's reminding us of the original feelings. We can then feel the feelings of the 3-year-old us that was hit by our brother, or the 11-year-old us who was at school and had children pushing us or doing hurtful things for us. We often feel this feeling of rage. Rage is the most common feeling to feel when we're having things done to us that we really don't want to have happen. So often, you know, if you're ever feeling these really big feelings that seem way out of proportion to what your child's doing, it's generally because of that. Those sweet spots are coming up to be heard and healed. And it can be really helpful to remember, you know, rather than judging ourselves for that our psyche is trying to, that's the way it's designed to work, it's trying to heal. So what I find is actually understanding your emotional cartography more, starting to note. So, you know, when my child, you know, what does this remind me of? So that's the question I use. What does this remind me of? And the more you start, maybe you have a journal and you start noticing when your child does this, then that reminds you of when you were 5 and X, Y, and Z happened, or this reminds you of when your brother tickled you, or when your teacher sent you to sit in the corner, or when that child, when you were 12, you know, the gang of girls got together and you were you're kind of the target of all their hurtful things. So the more you have a sense of those, and the more you get to heal those, so in whatever modality you use. So for me, I have my inner loving presence process, which is really going back and listening to the thoughts, which actually those thoughts are often the thoughts that we have with our child. So if the thought something is like, you know, why do they keep on hurting me? You may find that that's actually the consistent thought that you had maybe when you were you know, when you were 12 and you were at school and the other girls were being really harsh, that might be the thought that it takes you back to there. So that's one of the clues that it's a past hurt. So in the in loving present process, it's listen to the feelings, the needs, the thoughts, what you wanted to say, what you wanted to hear. And there are many different modalities for healing past hurts. But the more we do that, the more we not only heal those things, if we heal them, then when our child does that thing in the present, there's less sitting here, there's less pain sitting here. So we're less likely to go into those big feelings of rage or powerlessness, frustration. But also, even before they're all healed, when we go into those feelings, we can have for me, it's my inner loving mother kind of going, okay, so I'm feeling these huge feelings, and this can be really quick as we get more practice at it. I'm feeling them now because this is my 3-year-old. And I'm going to absolutely love her, and I'll put my hands on my thighs and I'll say, my inner loving mother will say to me, I'm right here, sweetheart. I'm right here, I'm listening. Yeah, I know, sweetheart. I really hear your rage. And it may even be, you know, in the quick moments when it needs to be quick, that can just be the hands on the thighs. And that's that, you know, I hear you. I hear you, I'm right here with you. It's usually I think the 2 most powerful statements that we have for ourselves and our children. I hear you, I'm right here with you. I don't know if you can feel that relaxation that can happen. So when we understand what's going on for us and why we're having these big reactions, we can heal them, and we can help ourselves emotionally, so that in the moment we can help our own nervous system, our own feelings, so that we're in a more settled place, so we're again able to respond in these effective empathic ways. So these are these three reasons why it's hard for us: what we're telling ourselves, our unmet needs, and our own painful things in the past coming up to be heard and healed. So we can work on all of those 3 different pieces, doing what we can to meet our needs, healing our own hurts, listening compassionately to them, and the third thing is changing what we're thinking about when they're doing those things. And that's what I'm going to be doing, giving you information so that you can transplant and tattoo in the new information if it resonates for you. Ra, biggest sweet spot, last time he threw a stone to another child and afterwards didn't want to talk to me about this until the evening. I'm worried when he doesn't want to share. His reaction when he feels guilty or ashamed maybe He's 5. I need him to trust me enough to talk to me. And I wonder what I did wrong, so he doesn't want to tell me when he did something to hurt someone. Oh, Ra, I'm sending you so much love. I hear that big sweet spot, and I hear the self-judgment, which is I've done something wrong. And when I want to, of course you know him, you're his mum. But I do think we tend to go talky and thinky, and I think often children don't want to talk about it. So the way that children heal from things and come to a point of being willing to talk about it, if they need to do that to heal the experience, is more through laughter and through crying and raging. So we're going to be talking about that more. And I know you know all about these things, but I think it's really very common for children. We go into the thinky because we're adults, and that's the way we tend to process things. But for children, it's much more likely that it's not going to be a talky thing. They don't want to talk about it because often they don't even understand it themselves. And I think you can really remember, because often, and this is what we're going to talk about, what should I talk about that now? Well, it's really the same for them. One of the reasons they do it is because in the moment there's a sweet spot. They're being reminded of some big old hurts. So often they really don't know. And it's like us. Often we don't know until we've developed our emotional cartography. Often these big feelings come out and they're acting in these ways. They don't understand why. They don't understand what we can understand, which is, when that child did that, it reminded me of this, and this is painful, and I haven't yet get to heal from that. So I'm going to try and heal from it now. And I'm not able to cry or tantrum or laugh or talk about it now, so that the feelings are going to come out in the stone throwing. So I think it'd be really helpful to remember often why they don't want to talk about it is because they actually don't understand it themselves. It's not a thinky thing. And I think this is one of the most helpful things to remember, because I think, and I'm going to talk more about this, is I think often we will think that the reason a child is doing something is because they don't understand, they haven't got the thinky piece, and that's why they're repeatedly hitting. So we'll try and explain. Hitting hurts. It hurts the other child. It hurts the other child. It hurts the other child. Remember, it hurts the other child. Remember, gentle hands. Remember, it hurts. But a lack of information is only one of the causes of these kinds of behaviours. And often for hitting and biting, those kinds of things, it's very, very rarely because they don't understand. I would say probably never. I mean, for other kinds of challenging behaviours, it can be because they don't understand. But for this, it's not a thinky reason. It's not because they don't understand, and they actually... So is that making sense? So often we go in the thinky level, and often the thinky level is the least effective in these situations. Right, I need to remember not to be too thinky. But if you like thinky, so your thinky piece can be you remembering all of these things, like he probably doesn't know, it's probably a sweet spot, he doesn't understand, it's my job to help him release and heal in these other ways. Kate, welcome, so glad you're here. So those, So I love this meta level. So we've talked about the 3 reasons why it's hard for us to respond compassionately in the moment. And it's really remembering that it's very similar. So when we're looking at the 3 reasons for children's challenging behaviors, it's actually kind of the same as us. So the 3 reasons are unmet needs, like ours, a need for information, like ours, that we were talking about, and an accumulation of painful feelings that are coming out in a sweet spot. And these are the 3 reasons for children's behaviours. All the hitting, the biting, and the throwing things, and the pushing is one of these 3 reasons. And as I say for those kinds of things, I wouldn't say it's very rarely or ever a need for information. It's more likely the unmet needs or the accumulated feelings. So what I'd love to do is then go into more the thinky part for you, like we're talking about, Ra, is the information piece for you. So giving you more information so that you've got that thinky piece in mind, so you can be thinking clearly in the moment, the kind of thoughts that are going to be helpful, that are going to actually help you respond in the most helpful ways. Phoenix, what do you think the reason is that some young children run away from their carers? There can be so many reasons, Phoenix. I need to know more about your daughter and what happened for her. So it's really looking at her history. So what I find is, as well as developing our own emotional cartography, is really developing our child's emotional cartography. So you may, if you haven't already done this, really writing down the story of her life. What was her birth like? What was it like when she was in your womb? What kinds of experiences has she had? Has she had experiences where she didn't get to choose? For example, if you're solo parenting, what happened around that? So it's really looking at what's life like from their experience. What might be what might she be trying to either heal from or trying to express through the running away? So it's really thinking about, in each individual child, is like, what might that be? And I think you will know that more than anyone else. And really through writing down the history, and this is what happened, writing down all the painful things that happened, if there are any traumas, if there are any medical interventions, any separations. Often if there have been separations, that can be part of what's showing up there. And helping her heal from that is going to mean she's not going to do that so much. So those are the kinds of things I would be thinking about. I don't know if that's helpful. So when a child's hitting or throwing the stone or doing those, or taking the toy or hitting their sibling or whatever it is, in that moment, it may look like they're feeling powerful, mightn't it? For that 1 second, it may look like it. But if you think about your own behavior, the times that maybe you've got a little bit harsh, or you've gone into your own version of aggression, you've got a little bit threatening, or you've used power over, those are the adult versions of the stone throwing. Are you feeling powerful just before you do that thing? Or actually are you more likely to be feeling frustrated, helpless, powerless, all those kinds of things? And that's why you then resort to the kind of blamey, threatening, harshy thing. Do you find that? Hi, Danny, welcome, welcome, welcome. And Manda, welcome. So it's just the same for children, really even though it may look like they're feeling powerful in that moment of the hitting or the biting or the taking or the throwing the stone, it's generally coming from more of a sense of kind of a fight or flight reaction, actually, more of a powerlessness, helplessness, fear, anxiety, that kind of thing. I think that can be so helpful to really remember how they're actually feeling rather than how it may look like in the moment. Oh, they're feeling powerful, they're doing it because they're, then we can get back into those judgmental thoughts. So I really want to remind you, if you don't already know this, there are 3 ways that we can respond to feelings. I love lists of 3. I think they're really helpful because I have them tattooed in my mind. So 3 ways that we can respond to painful feelings in ourselves, and 3 ways for children to respond. There is expression. So painful feelings are there and they get expressed through raging, crying with loving support, laughter with loving support, talking, that's less likely. The younger a child is, the less effective talking is, the more it needs to be through these more physiological ways. Shaking, sweating, those are all release mechanisms for us and for children. So that's expression. Then there's repression. So repression for children looks like, I don't know, eating when they're not hungry, running around everywhere, distracting themselves, wanting to be on a screen all the time, picking their nose, twirling their hair, those kinds of things. They're ways that they're holding in feelings. Oh, there's a like, thank you. And repression in adults looks the same. Adults, we can do hair twirling as a way to repress feelings, but we can also eat chocolate, sweet things, coffee. We can distract ourselves, screens, social media, alcohol, thinking, being busy. Those are all really common ways that we use. Oh, thank you for the love. We repress our feelings. But it's really remembering, if we're repressing feelings, they are still sitting in there. They're still bubbling away in there. They're not going away. We might be distracting ourselves from them, or we might be distracting our child, but those feelings are still sitting there like a big river. And that is, that river can build and build and build. And the other response to, thank you for all the love, I'm loving it. The other response to feelings is aggression. So aggression, the word sounds judgmental. There's no judgment here, but I just like it because it's easy to remember. Expression, repression, aggression. So for children, there's 3 of the things that we're talking about here: hitting, biting, throwing things, pushing, kicking, all those kinds of things. It's one of the ways they're trying to deal with upset feelings. One of the ways the feelings are trying to come out. The thing is, they don't actually come out. They'll do that thing and they don't feel any more relieved. Same with repression. Repression, you may kind of, well, you may feel relieved in the moment because you're kind of dissociated, but those feelings are still there. You're still going to feel uncomfortable. And for adults, aggression is things like all the things we said, getting a bit harsh or getting a bit blamey or judgy or punitive or a little bit threatening, using our power over. That's usually, again, when we've got feelings and they're not coming out in healthy ways through expression. So what I really want to remind you, when your child hits or bites or does any of those things, number one, they're not enjoying it. They're not enjoying it, even if it looks like they are. They're not enjoying it. They actually don't want to do it. I mean, maybe in the moment, to avoid the feelings of helplessness, there may be a sense of, gosh, relief, because thank God I'm not feeling helpless and powerless anymore or scared. They're actually not enjoying it from their true self. It's not their choice to be like that. So then, and they're not choosing to do it. So I think it'd be really helpful. These are some things I like to have tattooed. Thank you for the love, yay! Tattooed on the consciousness is they're not enjoying it. They don't want to be doing it. They're not choosing to be doing it. And really, this kind of aggression is really only showing up because our children are feeling these painful feelings inside, and they're not getting to come out through expression. They're coming out through aggression instead, and it doesn't feel enjoyable. It doesn't lead to relief. It just often actually leads to more unenjoyableness, because then there's our responses and the responses of the other child or whoever it is. It can add to more pain, and that leads to more agitation and more of these feelings inside. Phoenix said she seems to really enjoy it. She has a strong will, and when I ask her, she just says she wanted to go and see or play. It's more an impulsive action, and she really wants to do it. Could be some powerlessness. So again, I think we often ask children, why are you doing it? And again, they don't really understand those deeper reasons why they're trying to heal. They'll often act in ways to try to heal from them, but they don't understand. It was when I was I was born and I was separated from you for that half a day, or it was when Dad left and I felt so powerless, and I want to know now that I can choose to go because I didn't get to choose for him to go. I have this for my son, big feelings came up for him. They don't know those things. So again, we go into that thinking like they're doing it because, and they understand why, and they have this thought process around it, whereas generally it's not. The psyche doesn't generally work like that, especially for children. Hi, Priscilla, welcome. What can we do to help? So I've gone through this whole process, Priscilla. What I'm doing is talking about the 3 things we can do. So we've been on for 40 minutes already, so I'd love if you want to go and have a look back, and I know you really know this work already, the 3 things we can do to help ourselves so that we're able to respond effectively and empathically. And now I'm going to be talking about the things that we can do. So first of all, the thing we can do is change the way we're thinking about why they're doing it. So it's really understanding that often aggression is coming out because there's been some experience of usually things like powerlessness, helplessness, frustration. And pretty much every child is going to be having experienced that, given the culture that we live in, given nuclear families and needing to get in car seats and get in cars to go places, and not having tribal cultures where we could go and choose to something and they could stay with the rest of their extended family. So it's really common for all children to experience powerlessness and helplessness and frustration from time to time. Michelle and Priscilla, hi, beautiful, yay. So even though we give our child lots of choice and autonomy, they're going to feel some powerlessness. But some children are going to feel more powerlessness. So, and particularly at particular times in their lives. So you may have noticed this, that maybe if a child is hitting or biting or doing things like that, it's going to show up in particular times. So it might be if they're starting daycare or school and they don't really want to. You've just put them in their own room and they don't want to be there. They've just had a new sibling, which they might even enjoy the idea of, but actually the reality of what that's like for them. They can feel powerless. There's been a separation. That's a big powerlessness thing for them, because they want to hang out with both their parents. They didn't get to choose that. But even a big trip away, which can be a nice holiday for us, often again they can experience powerlessness. So big feelings. And even bigger if they've had, so particularly things like medical intervention. So, and the more severe the medical intervention, often the bigger feelings of powerlessness. So if little interventions like vaccinations or dentists, things like that. So dentists can be pretty big, actually, intervention. But particularly if they've had any surgery, or as a baby they had medical interventions, that can be very intense feelings of powerlessness, helplessness, fear, terror, particularly, if they were restrained in any way, so they weren't getting to move their bodies, they weren't getting to choose, or they were left alone, particularly in those scenarios, so they were calling out for help and nobody came. Then children who've had more of those experiences are going to have more of these accumulated feelings. So it's going to be more likely to show up in aggression. So it's really remembering, these are lovely children, really remember having this compassionate hat on. They really are not doing it for all those things that we might be thinking, or the kind of more judgmenty things. Fran, welcome. Michelle, hey. So basically it just means they haven't had the chance to express those feelings in these healthy ways. So those feelings are coming out in aggression because the body's trying to release it, but it doesn't actually release it, doesn't actually heal it, aggression. So it's really remembering that's how the psyche is designed to work. So when they get into a situation, particularly one that reminds them in some way of that original painful experience, and they haven't had the opportunity to express the original feelings and heal from them, then those feelings will come up in the moment. So, maybe they're on a slide and another child's trying to push them out of the way. That might remind them of, when we were getting them to go in the car when they didn't want to go to daycare, or, as I say, more serious, more severe things like when they were being held down to have some medical intervention done to them. That's the way the psyche works. And the more you've done this, the more you realize the kind of amazingness, and you probably experienced it in yourself too. The psyche remembers everything. The body holds it all until it gets to be expressed. And the psyche will keep, it's like this channel of feelings, okay, there's something similar here. Those feelings, they'll come out and they'll feel like they're happening in the moment. That's how it's designed to work. So, in the moment where some other child's kind of bumped into your child because they're trying to get on the slide, you can know, hey, why are they having this big reaction? It's just bumped into them. But for your child in that moment, the severity of the feelings, the intensity of the feelings, the fight or flight reaction, the powerlessness, fear and terror that they're feeling in that moment is the intensity of the original experience. That's why it's so big for them. They're really in fight or flight. And again, if you can really see compassionately for yourself, that's the same for us. Those times where you've perhaps, and certainly I have, and I imagine most of you have, you've acted in you've had really, really big feelings in response to something your child does, and you've acted in really big ways. It's not about what they're doing. Again, it's taking us back to that original scenario we were in, and we're feeling the intensity of the feelings as if it were happening in the here and now. So again, that's why it's really helpful. The more we can understand how this works, the more we can also be with ourselves in compassionate ways that help us feel this kind of settling in ourselves. I'm right here. I'm a loving mother. I'm right here with you. I'm listening. Remember, this is you, your 3-year-old, feeling that terror and that rage. And I really want to remind you, little 3-year-old, I'm right here with you, so that we're not going to respond as if they are our big brother about to, hit us, for example. So, Mando, we need to get into the garden. Yay, have fun. I'll listen back later. Thanks, Man. Thanks, lovely. Thanks for joining in. So it's really remembering, and I think that's what's so helpful with this thinky piece, is in the moment it feels that big to them. We might be like, whoa, but it feels that big to them, and that's the way the psyche works. And actually that's the way it's all, consistently working for us too. And the other situation can be a bit confusing, is actually when they're feeling love from us. So they, we might be cuddling up, they might be having this lovely playful time, and then suddenly there might be a bite. And again, it's because the psyche is trying to heal, but the other way the psyche heals is when there's this close, loving, supportive connection. It kind of signals to the psyche, okay, it's safe here to let these feelings out. So, and again, if we're not helping them to come out through crying, raging, tantrums, laughter, sweating, shaking, then those feelings come out in the aggression instead. So really remembering they're not enjoying it, they're not choosing it, they're not doing it to be annoying. It's not because they don't understand, it doesn't hurt. They're doing it because their psyche is trying to heal. And the paradox is we may often find ourselves telling them, have you ever done this? We might say over and over, hitting hurts, or don't you understand how your brother feels when you hit him? Don't you understand how they feel? The paradox is they do actually understand the painfulness, because in some way or other they have been hurt, maybe not physically but emotionally, and they're actually trying to heal from those feelings. They're not doing it because it's coming out through aggression rather than expression, but they are feeling the pain. So the paradox is, in those moments, it's probably more like us, that we're, and without any judgment of us, because you know how hard it is that we're not remembering that they actually do know, and they are actually in pain, and they're not doing it deliberately, and they're not doing it for thinky reasons, and it's not because they don't understand these thinky things. They don't understand why they're doing it either. It's no, it's not the thinky bit. So, you know, the more we can actually understand how they're feeling rather than ask them to understand how the other, we can as well ask them, but of course the more we're going to understand them, the more we're modeling that, the more capacity they have to understand others. So that's the thinky piece, so that when they're doing those things, you have these things in your mind. So rather than thinking, I've told them 50 times and it hurts, they're still doing it, or telling them have gentle hands, or tearing out your hair in frustration about why they're doing it yet again. Instead, with this information, remembering this is why they're doing it. This is why they're doing it. They aren't enjoying it. They need my help. Those kinds of things. I think that the tattoo can be really helpful. And the more we're thinking those things, the more likely we are to be able to feel compassion for them. We're going to be able to feel empathy. We're going to feel loving support, and to be able to take empathic and effective action. That's why the thinky piece is so important, why I've given it so much attention here. So what about our actions? You've probably been waiting for that one, but you know, for me, this inner piece is so important, because without the inner piece, you can know the actions inside out, back to front, and not be able to take them. So we can do it preventatively, and we can do it in the moment. There are two ways we can take action. So preventatively, so basically preventing more of feelings of frustration and powerlessness going there in the first place, so preventing this accumulating more. So one of the ways we can do that is giving them lots of choices. So, you know, we're going to go to the car now. Do you want me to carry you, or do you want to walk? Do you want to take your book? Do you want to take the toy? Let's put your pajamas on. Do you want the red ones, the pink ones? Let's brush your teeth now. Do you want the blue one or the purple one? You know, do you want this first or that first for dinner? Those kinds of, you know, giving them choices. The more choices children get, the more they have this sense of autonomy and choice. They're less likely they are to have more feelings of powerlessness added on the top. That's one preventative choices. Another preventative is connection. So, because connection is the antidote to powerlessness. So present time is a really effective way to help them feel connected. So I've got a little free course about that if you want to know more. It's really basically being present for a particular chunk of time where they feel deep connection and they have deep choice. It's also a really helpful way to help us feel more connected with ourselves. And I've really been noticing myself that I find it really generally really easy to be compassionate with my children. And but this week with my son, I haven't had so much connection with him. I've been having loads with my daughter, and I've been noticing as the weeks come by and I'm feeling a less of a sense of connection with him, I'm actually finding it harder to be compassionate with him. And my usual response to be compassionate is become not my usual response. So the more we feel connected with them, the more we spend time just looking at them, even just 5 minutes present time, so that we go, oh yes, you're my child, I love you, look at your eyes, look at the way the light falls on your face. Connection is the antidote to powerlessness. Esther, can present time be a control pattern? Well, if it's if they're repeatedly asking for it, and if you're not actually feeling connected and they don't seem to be feeling connected, then yes. And then you might want to be offering something else, or you can even set a loving limit. But it's really observing. It's all about observing them. What are they, you know, are they feeling connected? You can usually tell by, you know, the eye contact. Are they making eye contact? Are they relaxed in their bodies? Those kinds of things. So connection's the antidote to powerlessness. So, and the more we feel connected with them, the less likely we're going to go into powerlessness too. And the more connected with us, they feel, the less likely they're going to feel powerless. So connection, really, really helpful thing. Regular present time, little and often, again, like the little mini me moments, which is connection with ourselves, which prevents powerlessness. Little and often connection with them helps both of us, actually. The other thing is, the more they get to release feelings of frustration and rage and powerlessness at other times, the less likely they're going to come up, because that, in that moment where they have that, the child in the swing or whatever, the less likely there's this big backlog. So the more they get to express those, raging, crying, tantrums, lots of emotional expression, that's basically healing. It's releasing out all those feelings, so that they're less and less and less that they're holding in there, so that this moment here, there's less in there to be reminded, for them to be trying to heal here. So basically what we're doing is we're helping them heal it here in helpful ways, so that their psyche isn't needing to use these different scenarios that come up in their life to heal. So things like listening to broken cookie moments, you know, when they suddenly start crying over something that's really little, and really listening in and just being with them rather than trying to fix things. If it's really clear that these are some big feelings, just listening. I'm right here, sweetheart. Yeah, you really wanted that last cookie and it's broken, and we don't have any more cookies, sweetheart. And again, not going thinky and explaining, just once explaining and then just listening. I'm right here. I hear you. You're really frustrated. You know, you're really upset. You really wanted that cookie. You don't want a broken cookie. You know, when children will repeatedly have really big feelings about things that seem like an overreaction, it's their psyche trying to heal. They're trying to rage. They're trying to cry. They're trying to release the feelings. So the more we can cooperate with that natural healing and release mechanism that's going to be coming up every day, especially the younger the child is, the more it's going to be coming up, is listening, staying and listening to the feelings. Laura, welcome. Phoenix, what if the child tells you to go away? So there are lots of different ways to do this, and my own personal take on this, but you can, what I usually ask is, what did you ever do that as a child, and what did you really want? So for me, I did that, and what I really wanted was my parents to stay and say, I hear you, sweetheart, I hear you want us to go away, and I'm not going to leave you alone when you're upset. I see that you're really upset, and I'm going to be right here, and I'm listening. You may stay at a little bit more of a distance, you may play with a distance, but that's, you know, that from my own, I always think self-reflection is the most helpful thing. Hi, Phoenix. Hi, Callie. Also, Phoenix, if you're saying, and Callie, welcome. So we're nearly done. So that's what I used to say to my children. You know, I really hear you want me to go away, sweetheart, and I really see you're upset, and I'm not willing to leave you alone while you're upset. So I'm just going to stay here. And again, often the more connection would often lead to more raging, more crying. No, I hate you, rah, rah. And remembering that's the release of the feelings. That is what they're trying to release. That's what's causing the hitting, the biting, throwing, and the running away. It's us staying with them in those most challenging, painful pieces, listening. So really keeping, as a preventative, those are the preventatives we can do. Basically, connection, particularly through present time, but just connection throughout the day, whenever we can, little mini moments, lots of choice, listening to big feelings when they come up, and rather than trying to distract them, listening to those feelings. And the other way they can release them is through power reversal games. So power reversal games are basically the way that they release through laughter. So in a power reversal game, and to release feelings of powerlessness and fear and frustration, we take the position of the less powerful one. And for that time, we let them be the more powerful one. And we do it in often a mock silly way. So there are gazillions of these you can play. My go-tos were generally the swing game. So pushing them on a swing, and every time they come back, I pretend that they would knock me over, do a big exaggerate. Oh my goodness, how did you do that? You're not going to do that again, are you? And then push them again, and big exaggerate. The more you can exaggerate, and the more you fall over and, you know, make a big thing, and they laugh, then the laughter is actually releasing the lighter feelings of powerlessness, frustration, those kinds of things. So they're actually releasing those feelings. So again, those feelings that are coming out in the aggression get to come out instead through expression. They come out in healthy ways. So if your child is doing any of those kinds of things, really ramping up the power reversal game. So that can be pillow fights. Again, I went for the really simple ones. There are a gazillion ones that you can use. I have a free intro course in attachment play which has all of these in them. Pillow fights, again, they hit you. When they hit you, do big, exaggerated falling over. So basically they're getting to be in the position of power. We're getting to be in the position of powerlessness, and they get to laugh and release the fear, the frustration, the powerlessness. Laughter isn't the only feeling. There generally needs to be raging too, but laughter is one of the ways that it gets expression, released. Yeah, lots of games. So basically they're chasing you, they're being the big scary puppet, they're basically whatever game, and they'll probably be again inviting this. So again, really following their lead. Often children know how to heal. They'll often be inviting things, games, to help them release. And it's really, the more we understand what's happening, the more we understand the source of this aggression, the more we can cooperate with their natural expression mechanisms. So those feelings come out in healthy ways, so that that feeling bank of those feelings gets lesser and lesser and lesser. And so those are the things you can do preventatively. What about in the moment? So again, there are 3 things you can do in the moment when they're doing that aggressive thing. So the first thing is, and obviously if someone's getting hurt, this needs to be a very quick, like millisecond thing, is really connecting with them. So the way we connect with them is often the thinky things that we maybe have tattooed in our minds, reminding ourselves why they're doing it, reminding ourselves it's painful feelings bubbling up, reminding ourselves that they need help, tuning in with our loving compassion for them. Oh, it's my child, I love them. The next 2 depend on the situation, the child. So the number 2 and number 3 are loving limits, and again, attachment play. So sometimes it's not going to be possible to do attachment play. You have an intuition to set a loving limit, or you're just not in the place where you can possibly do attachment play. So loving limit's the place to go. Other times you might find the opposite. You set a loving limit and it's not leading to the feelings coming out. You're setting this loving limit and there's still the aggression. It's not leading to expression. And in that case, you probably need to preventatively up the connection, up the present time, up the power reversal games, so that when you set a loving limit in the moment, those feelings can then move into expression. Does that make sense? So, loving limits. So if someone's getting hurt, really, obviously, to move in, and generally in other situations, I would do the loving bit first and then the limit. But clearly, if someone's getting hurt, including yourself, the limit's really helpful to go first. So it's really remembering that reason we're doing a limit is not only to stop the behavior, stop someone getting hurt, but it's actually to facilitate the expression. The aggression's coming out. We want to stop the aggression so that the feelings can come out through expression. That is half the reason for the limit. It's not just about stopping the behavior, because if we stop the behavior, but we're not providing the conditions for expression, then those feelings are still sitting there. The frustration, the powerlessness, the terror, the fear, those feelings are still sitting there, and they're going to keep trying to come up. And one of the ways may be the repeated aggression. That's why we can be telling them till the cows come home, it hurts your brother, it hurts your friend, don't push, don't pull, don't. Their psyche's trying to heal. It's not a thinky thing. That's why it doesn't actually do anything, those repeated thinky things. We want to stop the behavior, and we're trying to help the expression. That's what loving limits are for. So it's not only limits, it's the quality of the listening that we're providing to help the original source feelings to be expressed. So I generally say things like, I'm not willing for you to hit me, sweetheart. I'm not willing for you to hit me. And then it's doing what you might need to do physically to stop that. So if it's a hit, catching the arm. If it's a biting, you may need to put your hand there to stop the biting. And if they're really trying to hit someone repetitively, you may need to put your hand around both their arms. But it's doing the absolute minimum possible to stop them. So it's not, because you don't want them to then feel more powerlessness. So we're wanting to stop it, but in a way that there's still movement there. There's still a dynamic quality of connection. So we're really aiming to help them express the original powerlessness, not to add to more powerlessness. And then the loving part, so I usually like to say, you know, the first part is the limit. I'm not willing for you to do that, sweetheart, and take whatever actions required. And then to put in the empathy. I mean, already that bit is presented in a loving way. But then it's the empathy. You know, I'm right here. I'm listening. I'm right here with you, sweetheart. Yeah, I see you. And really mirroring for how they're feeling, mirroring them in how they're feeling. So in loving limits, there's no harshness, there's no disconnection, there's no blaming, there's shaming, punishing, because we know they're not doing it because of the thinky things. They're doing it because they're trying to heal, and they need more love and compassion in those times. So again, really remembering, if we just stop the behavior, but we don't listen, it's still there, it's still there, it's going to keep coming up again and again and again and again until they heal it. What about if we get there too late? They've already hit or bit or done something like that. Now, there I really like to borrow Patty Whitfler, her response. So she's the founder of Hand in Hand Parenting, or Parenting by Connection. What I love is she suggests saying things like, I'm sorry I didn't get here in time to help. And what I love about this is that as the adults, we're the ones that understand their psyche. They're children, they don't understand that yet. We're taking responsibility for keeping them safe while they're in this stage of growing up. And we're also taking responsibility for helping them release those feelings, because, you know, for us as adults, it can even be hard still, can't it? You may still find it's hard to stop yourself from going into aggression, adult forms. They can't help themselves heal. They can't phone up a friend and ask for empathy and compassion for their feelings. They can't phone up a counselor or therapist. They can't do their own inner loving presence process. They need us to help them. They're trying to do the healing, but they need us to cooperate with that for them to be able to heal, so that they stop doing these aggressive things. They need us. So I think it's really helpful to have that, again, tattooed in your mind. They need us, they need us, they need us. We're the ones that are there to help them. So really giving them that sense that we are there to support them, we're on their side. You know, that's what we want to be them. We want to be their safe harbor, not the enemy. We want to be there to be helping them. And also taking responsibility for our own feelings and our own, you know, doing our own inner and outer work, so that we're less likely to move into aggression with them. So really it's setting the limit. I'm not going to let you do that, sweetheart, doing whatever you need to do. And often if you really have got that point where the feelings are coming out, they may start doing more. Again, they're not going to just go, oh, okay, I'm going to stop and cry. There may be more physical movement, and there may be, rah, no, but it's not, rah. That's part of the releasing. Big feelings, really natural for every single child on the planet to have really big, intense feelings. You know, that's how rage comes out. That's how healing happens, is big, big feelings. I really want to say here, there's a difference between aggression and releasing. So if your child is starting to kind of rage and cry, but they're still trying to hit or kick, and those kinds of things, I really want to remind you, particularly if they've had big powerlessness experiences, so particularly if there were any medical interventions, or, you know, which most children have had at some point, even if it's like the dentist, or if you vaccinate, they've had some experience like that, or daycare or something. But medical interventions more, is the response of the body, the natural response of the body when we're in those scenarios is fighting. Remember, there's fight or flight. So that is often part of the release, does need to be a physical release. So in that case, of course, we need to keep ourselves safe. We may need to put pillows, we need to keep them safe. Raging is often very physical. So again, it's really doing what we can do to help ourselves stay there while they're raging. Because the more they can rage, the more those feelings get released, the source feelings, and the less and less and less and less likely it's going to come out in aggression. So really remembering, every time your child's having a big cry, a big rage, a big tantrum, that is their healing. There's a natural healing mechanism in process, which is amazing, amazing. They're healing from those painful situations in their lives. That means they're not going to carry it for the rest of their life. They're not going to have these sweet spots that carry on for them. It's an amazing thing. And again, in the moment, you can also do attachment play. So if in the moment you can do that. So again, power reversal games, if you can get in and say, so Sam Cooming, if you know her work, she's Here With You Parenting. And she shared these games with me. I'm a poor wee pillow, so you could get a pillow and, I'm a poor wee pillow, don't hit me, no, 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 no. So you turn it into play. So again, those feelings get turned into a release rather than aggression. And again, you really need to judge this depending on each child and each scenario. There's sometimes where attachment play isn't going to be the thing to do. It's going to be a loving limit. Other times where you can play those kinds of games. I'm a poor wee pillow, or the other game she suggests as well, which I really love, is yes, oh yeah, eat out, oh yeah, me. So you know, for me, it's not the come and hit the pillow thing, because that isn't it's not really an expression. Again, it's kind of a physical thing, but it's not coming out in feelings. They're getting to do some attachment play where they're feeling powerful, we're not getting hurt, but they're getting to laugh, so they're laughing again. That can also be part of the release. So again, it's a really different way of thinking about behavior, and remembering we're not rewarding it, we're not helping them do that more, we're actually helping them release the source feelings that are causing that behavior. So again, I have if you want to know more about Paraversal Games, I have a little free course on it, and I also have a paid course, but there's a free course that you can learn about all this stuff more. Phoenix, is there a loving limit attachment play idea you could implement for the runaway child? So I would think there'd be things to do with separation that are going on for her. So I would be recommending separation games. And yes, you know, in those times when she's doing something and you set a loving limit. So say if there's something, you said the knife, no, I'm not gonna let you, what would you do, the loving limit? I'm not going to let you hold the knife, sweetheart. I wouldn't take it away from her if you possibly can, if you can hold it and keep you both safe. And then she can have a big rage about that. So setting loving limits in those places, but also separation games would be really helpful. So whatever's going on for her around separation, it gets to be healed and released through those. So again, you might want to have a look at that free course if you haven't done it already, Phoenix. And big love to you. Kata, welcome, welcome. Amelia, welcome. Hi, Marion, sorry I'm late. We're just about to finish, actually, and I'm a bit over time because I've got my instructor mentoring course. Kata, my apologies for being late. And Kata, hi, lovely Marion. Yay, I've just played the poor wee pillow again yesterday. Yay, it's great, isn't it? Do you want to share anything about it? And the poor wee pillow. No, And it's really remembering attachment play. It's not making fun of their feelings. It's actually helping them feel powerful. And then they can laugh and release the feelings of powerlessness. So that's why they work so well. So I do just want to share my experience, and then I'd love to just do a recap. So my son, he went from being the most calmest, lovingest, gentle person you could possibly imagine. He'd done done lots of listening to his feelings. And then my ex-husband and I separated when he was 4, and he then started from this place here, headbutting and hitting all the time. So literally I could bump into him and he would hit me. It was, it was the constant thing, hitting. And it was really that, that extreme powerlessness of having a parent leave, that's one of the 2 people you love most in the world leaves you. It's incredibly powerless for children. And the other thing, I think, we have these often repeated experiences. So he had a very quick posterior birth. I mean, it was a lovely home birth, unassisted birth. It was lovely, but it was really fast. And he had a lot of jaw tension afterwards that he did release. But I also think it was helping him connect back to that. So often they can connect back to their birth experiences. So if they were forceps or Von-2s or cesarean, or the birth was brought on by, I can't even remember the thing now, what it's called. Anyway, those can be powerlessness feelings from their birth, and those can be feelings that they, they can be repeated experiences that then they're trying to heal from. So I thought I'd lost my boy forever. I thought I would never have that loving boy again. He totally lost the capacity to cry. He would only go into aggression every time. Any little thing, any little hurt, any tiny powerlessness thing, as I say, knocking into him, or any little no, just aggression. It was really hard. So I really want to let you know I have such compassion for you if you've been in that position, if you're in that position now. But I do want to let you know, through doing this inner work, this outer work, and through really what it was for him is a lot of loving limits. But then we got to the point where loving limits, when he was in aggression, we weren't going anywhere. So I'd be holding him, stopping him from hitting me and headbutting me. but it wasn't leading to a release. There wasn't crying and raging. And so what I really did was I ramped up the present time and the power reversal games and all attachment play, actually rough and tumble, and also really reclaimed a lot of my own power, healed my own powerlessness and really claimed my power. And those things together meant he did come out the other side. So it's been like a few years now where I was thinking in the last 3 years, I think he's maybe kind of lashed out maybe once or twice. He cries really easily again. He's incredibly loving and compassionate and gentle, especially with younger children or others. You know, he's really, so I really want to let you know it is possible. It is possible to come out the other side and help our children heal from those experiences. Phoenix, thanks, Marion. I've read a lot of your courses in attachment play. Oh, yay, I'm so glad. Thanks, Phoenix. Would love to hear more about the small group work you're going to facilitate. Emailed about recently. Count me in. Great. Could you email me again, Phoenix? Because sometimes I've got another call now and I may possibly forget it, and I've got another call after that. So email me. I'd love, that's so great. Love to connect with you. Sam, I was just mentioning your games, and I know we need to go to the other call. So anyway, I just want to remind you, recap. And Joanna, welcome. So what can we do? The first thing is to do our own inner work. So connecting and meeting our own needs more, changing the way we're thinking about what's the cause of their behaviors, so doing the thinky work, and healing from our own powerlessness sweet spots. That's what we can do, so that in the moment we can respond. We can respond with connection, loving limits, and attachment play. And preventatively, we can also ramp up the connection, the present time, the attachment play, and the listening to the raging and crying. So that's kind of the recap. Hi, lovely. Thank you so much for your 2 games. We love them. Still always talk about them. So thank you so much for listening. I know it was a long one, and so thank you for being here. Come in if you have questions. What I'll do is another one. I'll do a follow-up on this time, similar time next week, where it'll be more of a Q&A, so we can respond. I can respond more personally to whatever's showing up for you and your child. So I will send out. I'll put a event up here on this page so that you know when it is. It'll be next Sunday sometime. Thank you for joining in. Lots of love to you. Big hugs. I'm going off to my Aware Parenting Instructor Mentoring course now, which I'm late for. So I will hopefully see you next week, or come and ask questions here if you want. Lots of love. Bye. Thanks for the love. I love it.